Welcome to A Kid's Life podcast. This is Angela Lockwood. Thanks for sharing your time with me. It is currently school holidays for me here in Australia. And for most people here in Australia, doesn't matter what state or territory you're in, we are all trying to do that juggle between work, family, keeping the kids entertained, keeping them, quiet, making sure they're having fun, making sure that they're seeing their friends, making sure that they're, being able to play on their own. Oh my gosh, it feels like over the school holidays, we always are, basically playing catch up. We're trying to do the right thing by our kids while also trying to make sure that we're getting everything that we need. School holidays sometimes are met with excitement. You might be in that camp. You might also be in the camp where you dread school holidays, because I know a lot of people, particularly if you're working full time, it can be a real struggle. So today I wanted to talk about a topic. It was actually in response to a question that I was asked by one of my members on Calm Confident Kids, which I'll share a little bit of information about what Calm Confidence Kids is a little bit later. But right now it was a question that came through from a parent, and it got me thinking, because I know I have struggled a little bit with this in the past myself. And just wanting to have a chat to you about my thoughts on this question, and also just to get you thinking a little bit about what your response and your approach is. So the question was, hey, Ange, over the school holidays, my kids are always asking me whether or not they can have sleepovers at a friend's house. I'm not very keen on having them go to kids' places for sleepovers. What are your thoughts? And so that's a really good question. And you might have had this yourself, where your children are asking you, can I, go over to Johnny's house for a sleepover? Or can I go over, to Lucy's place for a sleepover? And you're not sure. Something just doesn't feel right. Now, this is not necessarily a direct response, like an intuitive response to the other child's parents. But so, sometimes we could go, oh no, I don't really want you sleeping over there. But sometimes it is just, it has a whole lot of issues that come up actually. And we're going to go through what some of those things might be, just to highlight why you could be feeling a little bit hesitant to allow your child to go for a sleepover. Sometimes these feelings can be around giving your child that little bit of extra freedom away from you over the holidays, and depending on your child's age. Now, actually, one of the things I'm not going to do when we're talking and exploring this issue is give you a prescriptive response. And so I don't want to say to you at this particular age, this is when you should allow your children to go and have a sleepover at a friend's place, or no, this is too young, or yep, by this age, they'll be fine. Because your response and your reaction to whether or not your child is going to have a sleepover at a friend's house will come down to a couple of factors. And some of these factors are, of course, age. The age of your child would be more hesitant maybe when they're younger, because you feel like, they don't have those skills on board to be able to navigate a sleepover. It could also be when they're teenagers, because you're worried that that freedom and might allow them to get up to things that you don't want them to. It could also be not just age related. It could be the fact that you don't know that child's parents, that they're new friends, or they're friends that the child talks about at school, but you've never actually met the parents. So rightfully so, you're feeling hesitant about having your child go and sleep over at their house, because to you, they're strangers, or to you, you don't know them very well. And as a parent, you feel like you, of course, don't want to go and have your child have a sleepover at somebody's house that you don't know. Other reasons might be that you don't like the thought from prior experience. You might have been, when you were younger, had a negative experience when you went to a friend's house. It might have been that you woke in the middle of the night having, nightmares, and your parents weren't there to comfort you. It could be that you had difficulties falling asleep at night. So not having that comfort before you fell asleep made that experience a negative experience for you. So that could be another reason why you're feeling a little bit hesitant. And of course, there's also really negative prior experiences, where some people have had negative experiences when they've gone to a friend's place, or even a family member's place for sleepovers, that trauma has come along with them into adult life. But some other reasons as a parent you might be feeling a little bit hesitant as well is that you're a little bit worried about your child going. You don't want to have them away from you for a night, which of course all parents have felt that before, where you're a little bit worried. You love having your kids around you, so having them go for a sleepover overnight, you're sort of sitting up thinking about them and worrying about them all night, making it not a fun experience for you. Now, I'm saying all these negative reasons, but these are reasons why you could be feeling a little bit hesitant around allowing your child to sleep over. Now, I know for me, I've had this conversation before that with my own kids, if I don't know the child's parents, and this is where the conversation around should I or shouldn't I really comes down to an individual's family's choice. Because for some kids, they're so used to from a young age going and staying at Nan and Pop's house. They might, be there for a night, a weekend, even a week while mum and dad are on holidays. They might go and spend school holidays normally with cousins. So they're really comfortable with going and staying at other people's houses. So that reliance on being with you as a parent isn't there. They're so used to it. They've even got their own own overnight bag that they'll pack themselves, and they're ready to go, waiting for Nan or Pop to come and pick them up for their adventure. But then there's other kids who haven't had that prior experience. There are other kids who haven't had that experience of going to a cousin's place or Nan and Pop's place, or even really close family friends' places from a young age. So they might get to being sort of 10 years of age and have never had a sleepover at somebody's house. So hopefully you can feel that the answer to should I or shouldn't I allow my child to have a sleepover comes down a lot to your family values, but also to your experiences and the prior experience of your child. Of course, little kids going and staying at a friend's place is a very different decision to make to, say, a child who's 8, who has got a little bit more. And when I say little child, I might mean like a 3 or 4-year-old. They've got very different needs to what an 8 to 10-year-old does. And of course, a teenager, there's very different needs at each of those levels. So what do you do when you are asked by your child, hey, mum or dad, can I go and have a sleepover at Lucy's house? Now, for you in that time, of course, if there's somebody who the child is really close with, their family might be a very close family, friends of yours. So the parents really well. You know what the home environment's like. You know that the families have shared values. Your response might be, sure, no worries, go for it. I'm comfortable with this. Whereas the flip side of that might be that they ask if they can go and have a sleepover at a friend's house, but the request is either come through the child, which sometimes happens sometimes, or it might be through a text message. It might be through a passing comment that, hey, mum, this is Lucy's mum. And Lucy's mum goes, hey, it'd be great over the school holidays to have your daughter come over and have a sleepover. So there's a lot of different scenarios that play out with this. And of course, the difference between do I know them or not is probably the underlying factor to consider. So we'll talk in a moment about your child's readiness. But I know I've had this conversation with my own daughter before where she's asked for a sleepover. She's not keen on sleepovers, so she doesn't ask very often. And she's very used to having sleepovers at really close family friends. But she asked for a sleepover for a relatively new friend. And I didn't know that this girl, and I also didn't know the parents, but I've heard her talk about this young girl a lot. And I thought, well, she seems really nice. And when my daughter asked if we could have a sleepover, and I said to her, no, she looked at me and she said, why? And I said, well, I don't know where she lives, first of all. I said, I also have never met her parents. And in fact, I've never met the girl. And to my daughter, of course, and to most kids, they're not seeing the big picture as us adults do. They're not seeing that, there's lots of different things that could play out, or there's lots of different safety considerations, but there's also a lot of social emotional considerations that we need to take into account. But for our kids, they're just thinking, that person is my friend. We're going to have heaps of fun. I want to go and play with their toys, or I want to hang out at their place. It means I'm going to have more time with them. they're very single-minded like that. They know that that is my goal. Whereas as a parent, our goal is obviously safety and making sure that they're happy and that they're feeling very secure. Now, this scenario that played out for my daughter is I said to her, Dylan, I'm never going to allow you to sleep over at somebody's house. Number one, if I've never been there. And number two, if I have no idea who the parents are. And I said, would you like me to walk up to somebody random in the street and just say to them, hi, I don't know you, don't know where you live, but could you look after my daughter for the night? And it was when I gave her that scenario, she looked at me, she goes, okay, I've got it. And I know that might feel a little bit extreme, but it's a very similar case where don't know where they live, don't know who they are. I only know them by name. And so once I had that sort of discussion with my daughter, she could see why, rather than me just saying no, she got the context of why I think that it's important. And so what we did is I said to her, well, how about I catch up with the parents and we'll have a coffee and I could just get to know them and say hi and meet them. And she's like, Mum, you'll like them so much. And I said, great, let me meet them. And so what I did is I went out and had coffee with my daughter and with her friend and with the mum. And what we did is we got to know each other. We met, and that was a really good opportunity, not for me to judge or, well, I guess a little bit. I was trying to make a rational decision and a motive decision as well as thinking, do I feel safe in allowing my child to be with these people? Now, never did I, in the back of my mind, it wasn't like a date of where I was trying to work out, are they lifelong friends of mine or are they, do I have to go home with them? But what I was doing is seeing if my values were shared values. And that's one of the things as a parent, when we're meeting other parents and allowing our children to spend the night at somebody's home, we need to feel comfortable so that we're not staying up in the middle of the night staring at the roof and wondering, is my child okay? Now, the coffee catch up didn't stop there. What I also did is I said, before you have a sleepover, let's just catch up a couple of times during the day. Now, the next catch up is I went to the people's home and I dropped her off. I sat and had a cuppa. We caught up. It was really lovely. It was such a lovely experience. And I allowed my daughter to be there for the day. And so it's like these little introductions into making sure that your family is safe or that your child feels comfortable in that environment. Because if your child turns up, and I've seen this and I've heard this many times before, and in fact, the member of Calm Confidence Kids who had sent this question through, I ended up calling her and just having a chat to her around the topic of this sleepover. And it was interesting because she had a prior experience of her child going to somebody's house for a sleepover, hadn't been there before, and getting a call at 12 o'clock at night when the daughter had woken up wanting to come home. And, that is because I guess some of the groundwork hadn't been done, that the child, number one, wasn't ready, didn't have that opportunity to feel safe and secure. But the good thing was had the opportunity to give the parents a call. Now, I have had this experience in the past as well, where, you wake up in the middle of the night, the child knocks on your bedroom door and they're like, oh, I want to call mom. And so a big part of whether your child should have a sleepover or not. So what we've talked about is, number one, it comes down to your comfort level. Does the other people have shared values? It also obviously comes down to the age of your child. Are they ready? But it also comes down to having a conversation with your child about what sleepovers are. Is it necessary? So I know some kids love them. They love a good sleepover. They have so much fun and they're very comfortable and they have a great time. Whereas other kids don't feel that level of comfort. And so maybe just a play at their house, a long play over the course of the whole day rather than just a couple of hours might be enough. And for some kids, sleeping in their own bed is a really important place where they actually can self-regulate. Whereas when they go to another kid's place, they don't have that ability to press pause. So you get the fallout when they come home of a very tired, cranky child. So hopefully when you're listening to this, you're sort of going, oh, she hasn't really told me. Is there a right age? Isn't there? Should I or shouldn't I? And I'm sorry, I'm not going to, because you've got to find that groove for you of your level of comfort and trust, not only of your child, but also of the family whose home they're going to. Now, the other factor I wanted to talk to you about is having a conversation with your child around, do they feel ready? Now, if your child is so young that they can't have this conversation, maybe it's time just to hold it off a little bit. Maybe they're not old enough yet. But just to have that conversation with your child around, okay, so when you get there, what are you going to do? Or, get them to pack their bags with you, or letting them know what time you're going to pick them up. Getting them to call you before they go to bed at night, which is always a nice one. I still get my kids to text me to say goodnight. And that's just because I love it. I know I don't have much time for them to be doing that, but just having that conversation with your child around, what they're going to be doing, where are they going? And if they go somewhere where, they may not be feeling comfortable, just to let them know that, that they can call you at any time. And what that does is it just allows your children to know that they're okay, that they're safe, that you have the parent's number, that you'll pick them up at a certain time. And that predictability just helps kids to not be so worried and about what could potentially happen. Now, I do recognize that some kids, they go and they just have so much fun that they're not even giving you a second thought. But it still is important to set those foundations up so that the sleepover is a successful sleepover. So hopefully that helps you with thinking, is a sleepover a good idea or not? Now, I have some really fond memories of sleeping over at friends' places when I was younger. We had so much fun. I do remember that most of the sleepovers I had were with really close friends. They were with the friends that mum and dad were friends with, that I felt comfortable with and I felt ready with. So it made those experiences really positive. But just keeping in mind that some kids don't like them, and that is okay. And I'm finding, in fact, the more parents I talk to, that having those open conversations between parents to say, look, my child doesn't love sleepovers, but would love to come out and spend some time with you. Having those open conversations sets up a really good relationship between both sets of parents, and the expectation too that, my child doesn't have to come for a sleepover to be friends with your friend. There's lots of other ways that they can do that. So just sit with it, have a think and go, if it doesn't feel right for you and it's something that you're not comfortable with, it's not going to be a positive experience for you, really, or for your child, because you're going to be going in feeling anxious and feeling worried yourself. And on the flip side, of course, if your child is worried or anxious, then gradually introducing them to the experience, but also knowing that they don't have to have sleepovers to have a fulfilling childhood. If they don't want to sleep over and they just want to hang out, that is totally fine too. So if you have any questions about this topic of whether or not your child should have a sleepover these school holidays, reach out to me, DM me on any of my socials, or if you are interested in getting more support around your parenting journey, consider becoming a member of Calm Confident Kids. It's my online parent membership where we have topics like this and so many more, like creating friendships and fostering positive relationships with friends, money management for kids, and a whole range, having a family with full of joy if you've got a household of kids with ADHD. There's a whole range of amazing topics that we have on there, both presented by myself as well as leaders in the field of child development and families. So go and check it out, angelalockwood.com.au/Calm Confident Kids, and all of the information is on there. Now, have a wonderful school holidays. Whatever you are doing, enjoy those beautiful people. Go and have fun. Sometimes switch off those devices, go outside, have a run around and do fun things, because it's during school holidays we come up with some amazing childhood memories and family memories. So enjoy, everyone. Until next time, I'm Angela Lockwood. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to a Kids Life podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, share, and subscribe. If you are after more parent information, then head on over to angelalockwood.com.au/Calm Confident Kids. Calm Confident Kids is an online parent membership where you have access to up-to-date, practical, tried and tested strategies that will help you to better understand your child's needs. Feel supported by accessing professionals who are also parents and can be your guide through this parenting journey. Feel confident in knowing where to turn to for information you need when you need it from any device anywhere in the world. I would love to have you on Calm Confident Kids, so please check it out, angelalockwood.com.au/Calm Confident Kids. Until next time, enjoy and take care of our kids.